Welcome to GolfCask Original Series, The Blend. Perfect for golf and whiskey enthusiasts alike.
Welcome, GolfCask Nation. This is Brian Bailie here, bringing you a new episode of The Blend. This is our question and answer series, and of course, we're going to address all questions from newbies, from casual, dangerous, and enthusiasts alike, from golf and whiskey together. And since we are inside, we're going to go ahead and do a blind tasting. Why not? So I have last year's Flavor number 20. I have no clue what this is, but heck, let's do a little blind tasting as we talk our questions and answers. So, you know, with all blind tastings, I like to drink half, leave half, so that way I can circle back, taste it again to make sure this tasting is what I really thought it was going to be. What we'll do is we'll do newbie questions and we'll kind of nose it, do the legs. We'll do our tasting and do casual. We'll do the finish and we'll talk about dangerous, and then we'll kind of rank the whiskey at the very end when we're in our enthusiast section. So that's how we'll kind of space this out. So newbie questions for golf. This is a really cool one, and it really made me think about the first time I ever played golf. What do you expect at your first round of golf? First and foremost, carnage. Golf is a hard game. Welcome. It's going to frustrate you, it's going to torment you, but it is a fun game, and it's a game that you're always going to learn and always try to strive to get better. So understand it'll be ugly when you first start. Ball will go everywhere. Sometimes the ball will go nowhere. You might swing and whiff, or you might only roll a foot or two in front of you. But the beauty of the game is enjoy the fact that you're able to play with a bunch of different caliber players and learn from them. So again, your first time out, you might have a buddy that shoots in the 90s, might have a buddy that breaks 80, you might have another buddy that shoots 140. You know, the beauty of golf is you can play it and enjoy the time with each other and learn from each other inside of the group. So that's a really good piece to kind of understand. Just understand that the game is hard and there's lots to learn. Always show up early. That way you can go to the pro shop, get your green, pay for your green fees. Maybe do some warm-up on the range, maybe some putting green warm-up, get ready for the round. So always show up earlier than your tee time. And ideally, if your tee time is at 1 o'clock, try to get to the tee by 1:50, 1:55. That way, at 1 o'clock, hopefully everything's on time and you're off. You're not pulling up the tee box and causing other groups to be late. So again, always try to arrive a couple minutes to the tee box before your actual tee time. Forget score. Score is not that important your first time out. Think more of playing fast, playing safe. By playing safe, that means don't get in front of people when they're swinging and things along that lines. Don't get in a line where the ball could hit you. But more so, just don't forget about keeping score. Score is inconsequential when you first start. Enjoy the 1 or 2 great shots you're going to hit during your 18-hole round, because those are the 1 or 2 things that will pull you back to play again. Also, the really cool part is there's the 19th hole, right? You can play your round, go inside, tell stories. You know, the shot you hit got 20, 30 yards longer or got, you know, closer and closer to the pin. The beauty of the 19th hole, there's camaraderie, there's fun, there's meeting other like-minded people that enjoy your passion for golf or your new passion for golf, and there's a lot to be learned inside of the 19th hole as well. So again, to me, you know, golf is fun. You shouldn't get really angry at golf. Golf is designed to make you upset and be punishing and all that, but you're out there to have fun. Now, if you're starting to play competitions, you're starting to play for money, the game changes, things along that lines. But your first round out, just go out, have fun, play fast, play safe, and forget about score. So let's dive in here. Before we talk about our newbie whiskey drinkers, we're going to go ahead and swirl this real quick. Look at our legs. Nose. Not getting bourbon. I'm getting a nice darker color. So it's got a little bit of age on it, but it's not super dark. By the nose, I'm not getting the traditional bourbon sweetness, and I'm not getting malt. So I'm thinking this is probably a rye. I'm getting sweet, but again, I'm not getting caramel sweet, but we'll find out. Leg-wise, what do we see? We do have legs, and they are moving rather slowly down the side and rather wide. So there's a little bit of proof to this probably as well. So we'll leave that for right now. Let's talk about newbies. What should I drink as a new whiskey drinker. Like, I'm just beginning my whiskey journey. What are some great starts? How should I actually start to drink? I'm going to attack this by not suggesting whiskey bottles. I'm going to say, here's kind of the progression that I work, and a lot of people I know that drink whiskey, this is kind of their progressions at first. First, we're going to start with cocktails. What are cocktails? Cocktails are bringing multiple flavors together with whiskey and creating a drink. A lot of times with cocktails, whiskey can actually take a back seat to the flavors that are inside the cocktail. So it's a great way for people that maybe don't like the taste of whiskey right out the gate to kind of mask and hide some of that. So I would say cocktails are a really good way to start. When I think of cocktails, I think of Old Fashions, Manhattan, Sazeracs. If you go to my TikTok page, every Friday I drop a new cocktail. I just did a Old Fashioned bread pudding. The Shadow Woman was really good. So there's a lot of actual cocktails where you can either push the whiskey forward or bring it back. So cocktails are really good. The next piece, I would say, once you start thinking, okay, cocktails are fun, but I'd like to learn more about whiskey, and maybe we move into more of a mixed drink. By a mixed drink, usually it's whiskey with something. Maybe whiskey with tonic water, whiskey with ginger ale, whiskey with, lime, things along that line. So the beauty of the mix is you can control the ratio of whiskey to your actually mixer. So as you get more and more, as you find whiskey more and more enjoyable, you'll start pulling that mixer back, right? So maybe in the beginning it's 75% ginger ale, 25% whiskey, then maybe we go 50-50, and then maybe we go 25% ginger ale, 75% whiskey, and then maybe one day we go 100% whiskey and just save the ginger ale for another day. So I think having that mix really gives you a lot of flexibility and to be able to bring the whiskey more forward. And again, the mixer, you can keep adjusting that to what your flavor profile is. And then I think you move into more of an iced, right? So putting your whiskey on ice, what does that do? One is it cools the whiskey, makes it a little more enjoyable, but it also, water will start to dilute the whiskey, will start to proof it down, and for some that'll make whiskey drinking more enjoyable. So I think you could go into mix, and then you can go into iced, and then I think you hit the pinnacle of whiskiness, which is drinking it neat. So anytime that you hear a person says, I'm drinking my whiskey neat, that just means glass, whiskey poured in room temperature, enjoy. And again, I would say that was my progression. I started with the sidecar, a whiskey sidecar, and that kind of moved into, I didn't do a lot of mixed. I did maybe a couple whiskey highballs or, whiskey tonics, something like that. But then I kind of just moved right into whiskey with a little bit of ice, and then I went into whiskey neat. So again, that was my progression, and a lot of people I talk to like that same progression. Again, the beauty of those 4 steps, it gives you the ability to move it in. How much ice do I want to use? How much mixer do I want to use? How prominent do I want my cocktail to shine the light on the whiskey, or do I want it more in the back? But again, once it goes neat, it's there to stay. So again, let's go back into our whiskey blind. Again, I'm going rye. That's what it smells like. So again, I think it's a good whiskey. So let's go ahead and take a little sip, and then we'll go into our casual breakdown here. That was a surprise. We'll talk about that in a second. Casual, so now we're going to move into our next question and answers, casual golfer. Best way to handle recovery shots. So I just hit the ball into some situation where I have to escape, whether it's into a tree line, really bad lie, part of the golf course that we didn't even know was part of the golf course you just discovered. Maybe you can put a flag down and say, hey, this part of the golf course was discovered by myself. But again, when I say recovery, that means you're out of position. Now we're trying to put ourselves back into position to play the hole as designed, right? Maybe it's punching it back into the fairway. Maybe it's leaving it just short of the green because I can't get it all the way back to where the pin is, or things along that lines. So recovery shots are trying to put yourself back into position to play golf. So my general rule as a coach, and this is if you're a casual golfer to playing tour, is your recovery shot has to be a 50-50 rule to me. That means 50% of the time I have to be able to pull this shot off before I try to hit it, right? So if I hit it in the tree line and there's a gap between the trees and I'm looking at this gap, if I think I can hit that shot more than 50% of the time through that gap, I'm cool with going with that. If you look at it and go, man, I think I could only do that 10, 15% of the time, that is not the shot to play at hand. Some coaches will be a little more risk reward, so maybe they would go 75%, you can pull it off, 25% failure. I'm about a 50-50 guy. I like to take a gamble every once in a while. So to me, having the ability to understand what my abilities are, know my own abilities, and then apply the 50-50 rule. If I think I can perform this shot more than 50% of the time, I'm in. If I can't, I need to figure out a better way. And also remember, the rules of golf are there to help you as well. So maybe I've hit it in a position and I can take relief from that position and allow me to play the hole better. Don't forget to use the rules of golf. The rules of golf are not a penalty. The rules of golf are for you to be able to put your ball back into play in a better situation so you can score. Yes, it might cost you shots, but they're there for a reason. So for me, the 50-50 rule is really, really important in being able to recover. So again, like I said, don't be a hero, especially, the worst thing you can do is hit a shot into trouble and be too risky with your recovery, and it puts you into more trouble. And then we kind of spiral, and then we start putting words in front of bogey, which is never a good thing in golf. So anytime you say the word bogey, it's okay, because if you make a birdie, it erases it. But once you start putting words in front of it, double, triple, quadruple, sextuplet, bogey, whatever that word in front of it means, I have to make a lot of birdies to try to neutralize that. And again, for most golfers, once they make a big number, it sticks on the scorecard. So once again, 50-50 rule, know your abilities. Recovery shots are pretty daggone simple. Now there's tricks and trades. If I'm trying to hit it low, what do I do? We'll run some video series on that for you, or if you have a question specifically on what that is, let me know and I can walk you through that. And then the next question I actually had was, what are some classic whiskey cocktails? But I'm going to actually bench that one. Maybe I'll circle back to that inside of our kind of free flow questions at the end. Yesterday we had a great whiskey tasting down at the Whiskey Jar in Charlottesville, Virginia. Knob Creek actually showed up, and I actually enjoyed Knob Creek. It's a subsidiary of Jim Beam. They have, they have the Knob Creek 9, they have the Rye 7, they have single barrels. They also have a new one out that's 50% rye, 50% their 9-year-old mixed together, which I thought was a very interesting kind of blend. So they have some good blended whiskeys as well. So when we were talking back in the day, Knob Creek used to have Knob Creek 9, and then they kind of went away from the age statement. And somebody in the group actually asked, why did they go away from the age statement? And the reason they did is because they were actually blending different barrels together. And if you know anything about age statements in whiskey, is if you start to blend whiskeys, the age statement that's on the actual label is that of the youngest whiskey in the barrel. So there might be a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. It's a 4-year-old whiskey. Even if the 4-year-old is a very slight amount and you're trying to bring in a certain flavor because of that, that whiskey becomes a 4-year-old. So that's why they took that off the actual label. But they took a lot of grief from that, because as soon as you create labeling and you put 9 years old and you take it off, people are going to go, well, why'd you do that? So actually, Knob Creek has actually gone back and put their 9-year-old sticker back on it. They do have 12-year-olds. They do have, I believe, I had a 12-year-old yesterday. I think they even have a 16 or an 18-year-old Knob Creek. So again, the beauty of Knob Creek has been around since the 80s. You're getting a really good fluctuation of age statements inside of that. So I thought this was kind of a cool segue to get you thinking about what the age statement really means. So when you see it's a 16-year-old whiskey or a 12-year-old whiskey, that means it was aged for 12 years in the barrel. So again, once they start mixing barrels, then, like I said, the youngest age statement in the group would be the age statement of that whiskey. So I thought, again, I was around a pretty good group of seasoned whiskey drinkers, but that was a question that some of them did not know. So I said, hey, let's throw this in today. So let's go back in here and taste this one more time. That first sip, I was thinking rye, I was thinking spicy, I was thinking hot. I didn't get any of that. So I might be wrong here. Little ethanol burn. Really smooth. I'm getting sugar, but not caramel. So again, I don't think it's a bourbon. I'm still thinking it's a rye. I think it's a young rye. It's a little punchy, but it's got this sweetness, this mellowness to it it's really cool. One more sip, sorry. That is a very smooth, I'm getting some ethanol, I'm getting a little bit of rye kick at the end. So I would say smooth, honey sweet, not caramel sweet, so I'm more of a sugary sweet. I'm getting a little bit of fruit, getting a little bit of oak, but I'm getting a lot of just sugar and that kind of cherry. It's quite interesting, interesting. All right, let's dive in here and talk dangerous, right? Who doesn't like the little bit of danger? So my question on the golf side was, how do I lower my handicap? How do I go to that next level, right? So when I think of dangerous players, I'm thinking of players that are really into the game, really starting to train and work hard. For me, the best way to start understanding what I need to work on, I always say it's very, very simple. How many greens do you hit? And then how many of those are inside of 20 feet, which are birdie opportunity? And when I miss the green, how often do I hit it within 6 feet and 12 feet? If I can understand those 4 stats, it gives me a really good understanding of where my strengths and weaknesses are. So think of it this way. If I hit 12 greens and half of those are inside of 20 feet and I make no birdies, it just means I'm not putting well enough. My opportunities are there. I just don't putt well enough. Or if I hit 12 greens and I miss 18 holes, right? And only one of those shots are within 6 feet, means I'm gonna make a lot of bogeys because I'm not gonna convert a lot of putts outside of 6 feet. So I think having these 4 basic, how many greens did I hit? How many within 20 feet? How often do I hit within 6 feet? How often do I hit it within 12 feet when I chip? I mean, that to me gives you all the information you need to do. So if you start tracking those 4 simple stats on your own and start to really evaluate and ask questions, I think your path moving forward becomes really, really simple. So again, for me, as a dangerous golfer, to become better, to move my handicap better, is I'm going to try to move my handicap one shot at a time. So if I'm averaging 80, my next goal is to be 79, 78. So I'm going to try to figure out what can I do, what low-hanging fruit can I attack, and start to move that piece down. The higher number I shoot, the faster I can move. The lower I shoot, the harder it is to move. Once again, so understanding that component. So once you kind of understand where my strengths and weaknesses are, now we can go train and attack that piece. Most golfers, I love you all, but you train terribly. They go out to the range, they hit maybe their entire bag, work through it however they work through it. What did they learn today? Well, what they learned is they can work all the way through their entire bag. So I don't like that as a training session. I would much rather you pull out 1 or 2 clubs and try to hit certain shots, treat it like a golf round, you know, kind of visualize what the golf course would look like, hit certain shots at different pins, take a little off, add a little bit. To me, that would be good training. Most golfers, like I said, don't do that. So again, kind of understanding the components of what it takes for good training. And again, on the range, holding up fingers. So for a dangerous golfer, we're gonna be probably looking at about 3-finger dispersion left and right of the hole. That means if I grab a wedge, you know, and I hold up 3 fingers, that's gonna put me at about 9%. Which at 100, let's say 100 yards, 9% is going to be about 27 feet left or right of the hole. That's actually a pretty good shot for the caliber player I am right now. So training, how often do I hit it within certain finger dispersions? You can go to golfcast.com. There's a finger dispersions video series in there with Rob Fales. Really good stuff. That would be a really good way to start peeling some of this back. But to me, it's starting to understand what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. Let's address the weaknesses, maintain the strengths, and let's train to get better. All I can tell you is if you want to get better in golf, you just got to put in the work. And then the question for Whiskey from Dangerous is, how do I start building my whiskey collection? You remember earlier with handicap, we said 1 shot at a time? For me, it's 1 bottle at a time, right? Your collection starts when you buy a bottle and you put it up on the shelf. And then the next time you have at the liquor store, you have a little bit of money in your pocket and you want to go buy a new bottle, put another one on the shelf. How do I figure out what bottles I want to put on the shelf? Well, that's a completely different question, right? I think the best thing you can do is go buy a bunch of these little airplane bottles or the little, travel bottles with you. That way, again, investment wise, when I bought this Larceny, it was like $2. All right, so I could actually try Larceny, and if I enjoy it, well, maybe now I'll look at buying that bottle the next time I go in. Wild Turkey 101, I'm a big fan. Again, try the little whiskey bottles. That'll save you a lot of money, because the worst thing you can do is listen to an influencer, listen to somebody that has a flavor profile or a agenda, and they're going to steer you to a certain whiskey that just might not be that great or really doesn't fit what you like in a whiskey. So I would say try as much as you can. Tastings are great. If there's a whiskey society in your town, join it. Go and do tastings with them, because they're going to lay out a bunch of different whiskeys. I did one last night with Knob Creek. Like I said, we had 6 different tastings. It is a good way to sit down, and again, with Knob Creek, there's a couple I hadn't tried, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have to go back and look for that. That was actually pretty tasty. So again, having those tastings give you that ability to try whiskeys that maybe you haven't tried yet and might go to your list. The other piece would be, don't fall for the allocated nightmare out there. There's a lot of allocated bottles. There's a lot of people that are crazy secondary buyers that are just buying to collect. Don't go crazy over allocated. There are a lot of great whiskeys that are always on the shelf. You don't always need allocated or the fancy or the most expensive. So again, just make sure that you understand inside of the whiskey world, especially in the beginning, let's figure out whiskeys that you like, and we can kind of expand off of that. And I would say the last piece is hit up friends. If you have friends that enjoy whiskey, the beauty of the whiskey culture is we like to share whiskey. So if you came over to my house, we would have 140 bottles of bottle on the wall. Yeah. Okay, so I got a bunch of bottles on the wall. If there's something you want to try, hey, crack it open. Let's enjoy it. Let's taste it. Let's talk about it. So I would say, again, the beauty of the culture with most whiskey drinkers is they want to share and help you in your journey as well. So hey, hit your friends up, man. They have a good whiskey collection. Go over there and go, hey, I've never had this. Can we give this a shot? You'd be amazed on what they would pour for you. So let's go back into here one more time. Definitely, I'm getting sweet, sugary. On the nose, I'm actually picking up, I'm thinking this is actually put in a secondary cask. I'm thinking it's a finished rye. I'm thinking maybe a port or a sherry cask, because it's got this fruity cherryness that I pulled the cherries out earlier, but I'm getting this fruitiness to it too, which is not normal to a rye. When I think of ryes, I think of citrus. You might get some more citrusy flavors. This, I'm actually getting more sweet and winey kind of. So I'm thinking this is a rye that was in a sherry. Did we talk about proof? We saw a pretty wide leg, so it's definitely more than 80. I can't say it's more than 100 though, because it's pretty smooth. So I'm going to put this somewhere in the 90s. Finish wise, I would say medium to medium short. It's clean, it's crisp, a little bit of ethanol, a little bit of rye, but it exits pretty quick. So I would go medium to medium short, but it's a good finish. Doesn't take away. So one more sip all the way through. Nice. So now let's look at enthusiasts, and let's talk about the golf side. I think we talked, no, we haven't gone through the enthusiasts at all, right? No, we haven't. So the golf side on the enthusiast level is how to fine-tune short games for an upcoming tournament, right? So now as an enthusiast, I'm getting to the point where I want to really understand my game. I really want to elevate and play in tournament golf. So I have an event coming up. How should I train? Well, the best thing you can do is train in the grasses that you're getting ready to go play. So if you can mimic the putting green and the greens around the grass and put lies like that, that will get you ready for the event you're going to. So the worst thing you can do is train in Kentucky bluegrass, cold weather grass, and then go travel south and play in Bermuda. Two different grass, two different types of profiles. The ball's going to sit completely different. and then your mechanics to hit the ball will change. So again, if you can train to what you're getting ready to go play, that's the best way to do it. But sometimes you can't, which is okay. So you can do more general training. Then when you actually get to venue, when you actually get to site, do a lot of training and start to manipulate how you can hit the ball better. I know for those that don't play in Bermuda very often, if you kind of get in a green that has a little rise and your ball is just short of the green and you have this little uphill, with the grain growing into you, it's going to grab your club face really, really fast and try to shut it down. So the simple, what I always tell players to do with that is if you're on an uphill, defer down a wedge. So if I normally hit a 56, go to a 52 and just kind of roll the face open, try to make the effective bounce a little bit bigger. Treat it more like a 56 so you can hit the shot you want to hit, but the grasses won't grab onto that heel and you can hit nice, delicate chip shots. So there's a lot of tricks to the trade that you can learn from really good coaches, but more so from players, and really get that understanding of how to play differently at a venue. And then, of course, for me, the best drill on earth when you're at venue is when you play the practice round and you didn't get up and down or you didn't like a certain shot, or in your tournament round after the first round you go to the short game area. Think of every shot where you did not hit it within 6 feet for your chip shot, recreate that shot to the best of your ability on the chipping area, and then re-hit the shot that you hit, and then try to hit 2 or 3 different shots that you didn't think of and see if you get a better result. So the beauty of that is now you're doing a little trial and error. You're actually starting to see, was that the right shot to play, or it could have been something else. So your library of shots is getting better, but you're also addressing what could have been done. It might have just been a bad swing, a bad break, things along like that can happen. But to me, that is a great way to kind of understand what it takes to be better at venue. And the final question for the enthusiasts on the whiskey side is, what exclusive whiskeys are there out there that you want to taste? Like, how can you go find these exclusive whiskeys? How can you go taste them? Kind of goes back to the last question we had where we talked about how do I start my whiskey collection. I would say you can definitely hit up your friends. You can definitely go to whiskey bars. So whiskey bars are great. Now you pay a little bit more because it is a bar. So typically with grain alcohol, with spirits, they tend to put anywhere from a 5 to 8 times cost on that spirit. It's kind of beer is about 2 to 3%. Cocktails are usually around 5 to 8. Whiskey as well is about 5 to 8. So you get a little higher cost, but a good whiskey bar is going to have a bunch of different whiskeys on the shelves, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to try. You're just going to pay a little bit bigger of a premium compared to mooching off your friends. Going to distilleries is a great way, right? So if you go to a distillery, do a tour and do a tasting, a lot of times, depending on the actual distillery and the rules of the state, sometimes you get a taste for free or it's a small fee. But again, you would be able to try a large portion of their line that way. So I think visiting distilleries, and again, visiting a distillery and understanding the processes is really good. Learning the stories, learning what they're about is a great way to go. And I think the last really cool place, if you really want to start trying to find unique and exclusive whiskeys, is go to a bunch of festivals. I know they just did the Kentucky Bourbon Festival that they do in every September. There's Whiskey Live in Ireland that my wife and daughter went to 2 years ago, where they had all the Irish distilleries under one roof. I go to multiple different festivals inside of the state of Virginia. So festivals are really good because you get to meet the distillers. They usually have their entire line there. And again, it gives you the ability to taste. And a lot of times you pay to get into the festival, and the tastings are actually free, right? So you kind of pay on the front end, and then you can go around and sample all you want. And the beauty of all these samples at festivals is you don't have to drink the whiskey. You can take a little sip and you can actually spit it out. So a lot of times when I go to festivals, because I might be driving, I might be having friends with me, I don't want to be intoxicated, so I will actually take a little sip, swirl around, get the flavors, get the taste, and I'll actually spit it out. My friends laugh at me, but again, I'm there for the purpose of trying and tasting flavors, much more so than having to drink it. Now, sometimes it is hard when it's a very good whiskey and you actually have to spit it out. But again, I'm there with my intention is different than drinking large amounts of alcohol. So I hope those give you some good ideas and some ways to start thinking about whiskey and golf from the 4 different levels. Now we'll go through kind of a 5 quick questions. Actually, we'll go 6. Let's circle back and go, what cocktails do we talk about a lot of times? What are some traditionals? Again, we got old fashions. That is basically whiskey, bitters, simple syrup or a sugar cube, and an orange peel or a lemon peel on ice. I mean, it's just stirred. Manhattan's basically the same, except you're gonna add vermouth into the recipe instead of the simple syrup. Then we also have a Sazerac, which is very much like an old fashioned, but we're gonna add some absinthe and create a little bit of different concoctions that way. So there's a lot of different cocktails. Like I said, for me in the beginning, the whiskey sidecar was spectacular. It was whiskey, it was triple sec, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of simple syrup, a little bit of bitters. It was another way of creating a good, different tasting whiskey. But there's tons of great cocktails out there. I encourage you to go to a good cocktail bar, get a cocktail book, or again, follow us at GolfCask. Look at the cocktails we give you there as well. So I think those are some of the more traditional whiskey cocktails that you'll see out there. Another question I got was, what was my takeaway from the Solheim Cup? I was at the Solheim Cup over the past weekend. A former player of mine at University of Virginia, Lauren Coughlin, was there. One of the 12 players representing the United States versus Europe. Lauren's had a great season this year. She's won twice. She rolled into the Solheim Cup. The really cool part is she went 3.5 points. She won 3.5 points, lost none. So she won 3 matches and tied 1. As a rookie, that's pretty impressive. And the United States actually brought the cup back to the U.S. So it was really fun to watch. What did I learn? Those women can hit the ball. They were playing about 7,500. So again, you're looking at a big golf course. You know, when I play a golf course now, I probably play 68 to 7,000, just because I'm old and fat. So for me, that's kind of the length of course that I play well. So these ladies were playing at 7,500. So they were hitting long clubs into a lot of greens, and they were hitting some spectacular shots. And it was really fun to watch them compete and fight. And I know Lauren in her last day started out really slow. Was 3 down going into 10, and I think she birdies 10, 11, 12, and 14. I think that was right. Got them matched back to square. 17, they were still square. She hit it to about 20 feet. Her opponent hit it to about 3. And Lauren made a great 20-footer coming downhill right in the center of the cup, and they ended up, she had a storybook finish. She's at 15 feet on the last hole. If she makes the putt, they win the cup. If she ties, they're at 14 points. You need 14.5 to win, and she left it just short. So there was a chance of a storybook finish, but again, great play. It was fun to watch. I love watching the best players in the world, and if you know one of those players and you've worked with them, it just makes it that much more fun. So a tip of the cap to Lauren Coughlin, to the U.S. team, Stacey Lewis, the coach, and I think Lauren will be out in December for our golf event here in Charlottesville. It looks like she will be in town for some of that. So again, come play golf with us June 5, 6, 7. We're going to do the whiskey jar. We're going to have a great tasting night and dinner. We're going to play golf on Saturday, go do a tasting, eat dinner out Saturday night. Sunday, we're going to play 9 holes. Some more golf, and then we're going to do a bottle share. So it'll be a lot of fun there. So more information in the next day or 2 coming out on that. So be looking at GolfCast, checking the socials for that. Another quick round question was, if I could play a golf round with any distiller, who would it be? I think it would be Jimmy Russell. I think the stories that Jimmy would have, now I know Jimmy's up there in age and probably wouldn't want to hit it very much or very far, but hey, he can ride in the cart, bring a good whiskey, and just tell me stories. That would be as much fun of a golf event as I could ask for. So I think I'm a Wild Turkey fan. I think having the stories of the Buddha, of Jimmy Russell talking about, you know, his 50 plus years inside of the whiskey game, just what that all looked like, I think would be a fascinating round of golf. What would be, sorry, I got some things written on the board. I'm just making sure I'm getting in. What would be my favorite golf club in my bag, and how would that compare to my favorite whiskey, kind of a combination? I'm kind of quirky. My favorite golf club in the bag is a 4-iron. I love to hit my 4-iron. So my 4-iron, If I hit it well, probably around 200 yards, but I can make it go about 165, 170, and I can make it maybe go 210, 220. I can turn it any direction. I can hit it high, I can hit it low. A lot of when I first learned to play golf, I worked at a driving range. I would hit shots out of the tree line, and I would grab this old junky 4-iron that was in the cart barn, and I would just start to learn to hit shots with a 4-iron. So the 4-iron has always probably been my favorite club in the bag, which is quirky. A lot of people don't carry 4-irons anymore, but that is by far my favorite club. And what would that compare to my favorite whiskey? Again, I'm a high rye bourbon fan. So now you're looking at Wild Turkey Rare Breed, even Wild Turkey 101, Heaven Hill, Booker's, you name it, man. There's so many good high rye whiskeys. So my combination would be a 4-iron and a great high rye whiskey. Lost, their cast strength is just absolutely spectacular for Virginia whiskey. So those would be ones I would look at. The other question was, if I was going to pair my favorite whiskey to a golf course, what would it be? I would say it would be Wild Turkey Rare Breed in the fall, crisp air, and I would say Caves Valley in Baltimore, Maryland, or just outside of Baltimore. It's a private club. It's spectacular. I know the tour has been there a couple times. It is one of the most beautiful golf courses I've ever seen and got to play. So I would say Caves Valley in the fall, leaves changing, football season, Wild Turkey in my hand, I'd be pretty daggone happy. And then the final question was, what is my favorite golf movie? Well, there are not too many great golf movies. I would say my favorite, I love Caddyshack. It's just funny. It's classic. Happy Gilmore, funny. But Tin Cup to me is probably the funniest because it really is. The tour is really that kooky and crazy out there. The vulnerabilities that golfers have out there. I have seen tour players asking questions for the guy that builds the pyramid with golf balls about their golf swing. Like, a lot of golfers are very insecure. They have the same issues that we do as high handicap golfers. Well, speaking for you, I'm a low handicap golfer. But again, having that understanding, I think Tin Cup is probably my favorite. Caddyshack I enjoy because Bill Murray, and it's just funny stuff. And then the other piece I'm going to give here is recommendations. What whiskeys have I had lately that I would recommend, and what have I've been watching on TV? What would you recommend there as well? I would say whiskey-wise, lately I actually just had Widow Jane Decadence the other day. That was nice. I'm a Widow Jane fan, so Widow Jane Decadence, if you have a chance, if you can buy the bottle. I think the bottle's right around $75, $85. But I had it at a whiskey bar. Really fine tasting whiskey. Low end wise, I actually had Benchmark Single Barrel. Wasn't bad. It's young, it's punchy. It's the low end Buffalo Trace. Not bad for starting your journey. So I think those would be two recommendations for two different levels of whiskey. And then what have I been watching? My wife and I have been watching a lot of BBC shows. We watched this really crazy show called Shakespeare and Hathaway. It's like some comedy, whatever. That was pretty good. But I think TV-wise, I just finished watching Vikings Valhalla. The second season of that. Really enjoyed the first series of Viking. The second series is not as good as the first, Rollo and all that, but it was pretty good watching. So I recommend, if you enjoy the Viking series, Viking Valhalla is a fun watch. So let's go in here and figure out what whiskey it is. One more taste. Do our last guess. Definitely going rye. Finished whiskey. I'm saying port. Could be sherry. I'm going to go port. Young. It's a little bitey. Alcohol-wise, not a huge amount. We'll call it 90s to 100. Age, young, under 3. Let's dive in here and figure it out. So this was number 20 inside of the flavor. I encourage anyone that likes the podcast. I just ordered the new advent calendar for the season coming up. Make sure you order that as well. And as I'm doing blind tastings, you can do it with me. So this is actually called Minor Case. It is a rye whiskey. Alcohol is at 45%, so 90 proof. So we got that. So it was a rye. We got that. Age statement, 2 years. So it is young. We got that. And it is finished in a sherry cask. I said port. What I got a little bit of spice, but not a ton. I got honey sweet, and I kind of got that cherry sherry flavor. And those are a lot of things they're saying. They're also saying some oak. I didn't get a whole lot of oak. It says raisins. Sure. It says spicy. As a rye, it was not super spicy, but again, I really enjoyed it. That first sip, I was thinking rye, I was thinking big and punchy, and it came out really smooth, I think because of the sherry. So kind of cool there. And this is produced by the Limestone Branch Distillery that makes Yellowstone whiskey as well. So this is their rye version. So it's called Minor Case. By the nose, I would give it a 3. By taste, I would give it a 3. By finish, I would go 2.5. Overall ranking, it's a par. It's good. It's young. I liked it though. I would give it we'll call it a 3. Why not? Maybe just under 3, maybe 2.75. But to me, it is a good rye whiskey. I think it'd be a great starting rye for people that don't appreciate rye out the gate because it's not very spicy, and that sherry gives it that little bit of flavor that I think you might enjoy. So again, if you find Minor Case out there at a festival, at a friend's, or at a whiskey bar, give it a shot and let me know how you think of it. So thank you again for joining us inside of The Blend. This is Brian Bailie bringing you the question and answer of The Blend. Next week, we'll bring you a new episode. I think next week is actually, I can't remember if it's 100 challenge or if it is, it might be a Whiskey Made Me Say It episode. I got to go back and look, but we'll have a new one for you on Sunday. Remember, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we've released our new podcast, High IQ for Golf and Whiskey, where we're taking you through the steps on how to become a better golfer and a better whiskey drinker. So it's more of the educational side, which I love. Question and answer, and The Blend is more broadly talking whiskeys, talking golf, but these will allow us to really pinpoint areas and really highlight areas to get you better as a golfer. So make sure you follow those, and thank you again. See you later, and if you have any questions, you have questions for our next Q&A, direct message me, or you can email me at brian@golfcask, and I look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you go find us on our socials, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram are the big 3. Definitely YouTube. We got about 40 or 50 followers in there. I'd like to get that number up over 100. Our time and people watching videos is huge inside of YouTube, but I need more followers, so if you're not following us there, make sure you do. Thank you so much, and cheers.